Hello there. I'm going to show you how to make, I called it Melissa's Magical Scrub, but if you would like to call it something that does not have my name in it, please feel free. But I love Thieves Household Cleaner. I love that I can use something made from plants to clean my whole house, that it works on every surface, it's color safe, and I don't have to worry about it being around my kids. I love that it doesn't have chemicals. I love that when I spray it, I don't feel high from, all the vapors and things like that. So because of my love for Thieves Household Cleaner, I wanted to be able to do something for when I need that extra scrubbing power. So that's where this recipe comes in. So in order to make my magical scrub, first you need a really big bag of baking soda. I got this, it's from Millard, yes, on Amazon. This is like a 10-pound bag. It's lots of baking soda. Think of how many cookies that would be. That would be wonderful. So this is a 1/2 cup measure, and I am not filling it up all the way. I'm literally just using it for transferring. This recipe, if you know me at all, I do not like to measure things. I don't like to be exact. I don't like to have to make sure things are in perfect proportions every time. So all I'm gonna do is use this little scooper to fill my jar about halfway up. Why halfway, Melissa? Oh, I'm so glad that you asked, audience. It is because I found out after I made this recipe for the first time that it grows, hence the magical. But yeah, there's some sort of chemical interaction that happens, I'm guessing, between the hydrogen peroxide and the baking soda. And guess what? It gets bigger. And if you put it in a finite amount of space and didn't give it room to grow, if you've taken chemistry, guess what happens? Explosion. That's what happened, fortunately all over my sink, which just meant I had a very clean sink afterwards, but I had taken an empty Thieves dish soap container, and I had like one of the little squeezy bottles. Yeah, I had filled that up and mixed it all up inside the bottle, then just shook it a whole lot. That was a big mistake. So now I'm gonna put it in a glass container, and then you can leave it open to breathe if you want, so that way it doesn't have that like pressurized bang whenever you open it, because it'll do that. So as you can see, I've got just a little over half, just so long as my little concoction has some growing room. So now the next part is my Castile soap. I like using Dr. Bronner's. So this one's unscented, but my oven's ready to cook things, yay me. But so all I do is pour until the top is somewhat covered, okay? This is so that when I'm scrubbing, there's some extra bubbles and soap. It's not a whole lot. You can use maybe even a little less than that. Meh, it doesn't really matter. And then got our hydrogen peroxide. I don't know why I shook that, because I don't think you have to shake it first. But then I'm gonna use probably about the same amount as the soap, and I'm just gonna kind of squish that in. And you can see it's kind of starting to come up to the curve of the jar. And I don't think that I want more than that in there, but that's the soap, the peroxide, and the baking soda in there now. Then, because this is such a big jar, I'm using lemon essential oil. I like lemon because it's a natural degreaser. It helps get sticky gunk off. It brightens things, and it just kind of cuts through a lot of the yuck. But I'm gonna put in about 20 drops of lemon. Plus it smells nice. It smells really light and refreshing, and I'm not counting, I'm just talking to you. So this is just going in there until it looks right. I like saying until it looks right, because then I am off the hook for having to provide recipes. Here's your recipe. No, I'm just kidding. I will put this recipe up on Thursday on my Facebook group. So that's the Freedom in a Bottle Facebook group, yay. So then, because this is such a big batch, I'm going to add 2 capfuls of Thieves Household Cleaner. The Thieves Household Cleaner is just gonna work on getting through the extra gunk and helping me to be able to clean more effectively, brightens things up, it degreases, it shines, it's magical, which is also why this is called Melissa's Magical Scrub. So now, I need a spoon. Pause. Using movie magic, I now have a spoon in my hand. How did that happen? I don't know. All right, I'm not arguing with it though, because I have what I need. So now I'm just gonna mix. I'll try to hold this without dropping it, because dexterity is not my spiritual gifting. But it's gonna bubble a little bit and look kind of foamy and funky, but just kind of keep mixing until everything is combined. We're trying to get to the bottom of the container, get that baking soda really mixed in, and it should kind of start to take on almost a whipped appearance, where it's just kind of schmooshy. That's very technical sounding, isn't it? It should have a schmooshy appearance. You can see it kind of likes to stick. Ugh. All right, so if you want a thicker consistency, you can I'll probably add in a little bit more baking soda, because I think I went a little heavy-handed on the soap and the peroxide, but you can see it's kind of foamy. That's kind of, I may not actually change it, because that's kind of what you want it to look like, is a little bit thick and goopy. But it's easy to grab a spoonful and throw it on a sponge, or just, actually, if you're doing like a sink or a bathtub or something like that, just throw it straight into the bathtub and then scrub it with your sponge. But yes, that is our goop. So now this is gonna grow over time. I have seen it grow, I don't know if you can see in there, it's about 2/3 full now. I have seen it grow to almost full from that point. So, especially since I added extra hydrogen peroxide, this could be really a bit of an adventure for me. So yay. With Coronageddon, we'll take all the adventures we can get. So that is my handy dandy little mix, and all you would do if you have this kind of container is it's now tightly sealed, and then every time you want to use it, you just go pop it. But that's that.
Hey there. This is going to be the devotional part of the message. So just like the podcast had something where we would learn, and then there would be a devotional portion somewhere in there, I've decided to start doing the videos in that format, at least for now. We'll see how things go as we truck along. But now that I've switched to doing things with videos, and we just saw that scrub recipe, I hope you love it as much as I do. One thing to point out, that scrub with adding that extra hydrogen peroxide, like I mentioned in the video, that stuff kept growing. I was able to clean my whole bathroom and the kitchen sink, and then was finally able to close the lid. So maybe, I know that I showed you how to make it in the video, but back off the hydrogen peroxide just a little bit so that you don't have this uncontrollable growing foam monster that you're trying to jar up. But I do want to just kind of pass along some things that, if we're working on a recipe that helps us with deep cleaning and extra scrubbing, one of the things that God was kind of putting on my heart to share is the deep cleaning of our hearts. Oh my goodness, it has been a crappy couple of months, hasn't it? I mean, I can't think of a nicer way to say that. It's been stressful, it's been frustrating, it's been terrifying at times, and we are all kind of still sitting back, reeling from what are we left with? What jobs do we have? What economy do we still have? And there's a lot of concern, a lot of fear still. And I just wanted to share, I have not been in a good place with all of that. And sometimes in my humanness, I react poorly. And I think we've all gotten a lot more snappy, maybe not been as patient, as loving, as kind as we should have been. We're not really bearing out those fruits of the Spirit. And so I wanted to share one of my favorite verses when I am needing God to really cleanse my heart and do His deep cleaning work in my soul. And that is Psalms 139, and it's verses 23 and 24, which are, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." So when we're talking about that, first of all, to ask God to search you and know you means that He can. It means He knows your every thought already. You don't have to speak it into existence for Him to know your heart. So He's already walking this journey with you. And that is the first encouraging thing that we can talk about. I know in hard times, it is very tempting to want to fill our lives up with something else. But the truth is that every single one of us has a Jesus-shaped hole in our heart. And you can try to fill it with alcohol that will numb the problem temporarily, maybe help you sleep, but you still wake up just dehydrated with a headache and empty. You can fill it with trying to earn more money, but we've seen in this economy how temporary and just futile that can be, that if your security is in money, it can be here today and gone the next. You can fill it up with, physical attachments to somebody else, but ultimately what happens when that person lets you down? And so when you think about all of the things that people typically try to fill their souls with when they're hurting, it's like trying to put a round peg in a square hole. It's just not going to work because Jesus is the only one that fits. He is that healing balm that will soothe the raw edges of your soul. And so I would encourage you, if you have been like me, we've been hit by this yuckiness too. Matt had just made captain about 9 months ago at his airline, and now his entire company is downgrading half of the company back to first officers because no one's flying. That's a hard change. It's a hard adjustment. It's painful when we were right on the cusp of being completely debt-free, and we had so many dreams and plans. We had some vacations we were going to go on, projects we were going to work on, and you hit that moment where it's like, we're there. And then what happens when you're not anymore? And I think that that's what God is teaching us in this time, to hold on loosely to the things of this world. They're here today, they're gone tomorrow. I don't really talk about this typically when I give my encouragement, but I feel like it's appropriate here. I truly believe in my heart that one day, possibly very soon, Jesus is coming back. If you read in Revelation, Jesus talks about a time, or John is told about a time where God is going to come back for His church, for His bride, and He's going to take us to heaven to be with Him, and then the tribulation will happen and all of those things. Our world is primed and ready for that change. Think about it. There has never been a time before where people could so easily be controlled, where, it says, people will not have the ability to buy or sell unless they have the mark of the beast and things like that. We're in a day and time where that's actually possible. You can't necessarily do cash transactions under the table if, you're being run by electronic money like Bitcoin. There are so many things that are changing and evolving so rapidly. Look at how much technology has grown in the last 20 years alone. And so I think this is the time for all of us to ask God to search us and know our anxious thoughts, to find any offending way in us and lead us in the way everlasting. We don't know how much time we have left. It says no man knows the day or the hour. So the question you have to ask yourself is, if today were the day, am I ready? And I think if we're going to let God do some deep cleaning in our hearts, now is probably the best time. I hope that encourages you and that doesn't scare you. If it does scare you, then maybe there are some things in your life that aren't quite lining up with where you want them to be, where you know that they need to be. If that's the case and you're feeling fearful instead of faithful, reach out to me, send me a message. I would love to pray with you. I would love to talk with you and hopefully be a source of encouragement for you as we face some of these troubling times together. So until next week, I hope that you just have that sense of peace and that God can do that cleaning work in your heart, because we all need it right now.